And World Trophy Kids presented by Bad News Media. We have our first college football betting total for today's episode. I'm going to give that towards the back end here. You know the deal. This is not the full kind of breakdown. I'm going to do 4 of those this season for the Power 4, slip in a G5 school bet probably in the last episode. Weird to say Power 4. I don't love that. I miss my Pac-12. I'm not going to lie. RIP the Pac-12. The Big 12, though, has put together themselves a very fun conference. Like, I'm very excited for that breakdown. I'm very excited to watch those games. I think that's going to be a fantastic conference. Not an elite level of football, obviously. They'll get like 1, maybe 2 guys into the playoffs, but a lot of fun football will be played in that conference. So I'm excited to break that down. But the schedule will be I'm gonna release them 1 week at a time, and the last one will be released the week leading into the start of college football season, like always. The NFL ones are also being worked on. Me and Michael are gonna be back with those. We'll do what we do every year. One every week. If scheduling gets messed up, maybe we'll do 2, but the last one will also get released the week leading into the first NFL kickoff game. So those are on the way. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you got your alerts on. You won't want to miss those. We've been red hot betting preseason win totals, conference winners, things like that over the last couple of years, as you guys know. So it's also going to be great information for you to kind of have stored away to get you ready for the football season, fantasy draft, betting, all that good stuff. So those are on the way. They're being worked on. They're coming down the pipeline, but I got one team I'm very excited to talk about. I like the value that they're currently showing in the market right now. We'll talk about that in a bit. But first, we got to start NBA because we've got 2 teams that are about to maybe make clean sweeps of their opponents, which will highlight the dumbest scheduling error in the NBA. Big Cat tweeted this. I don't know if you saw it on Twitter. I'm hopping off that tweet basically, piggybacking on that one. And the fact that if there's a clean sweep here, the NBA will not move up their schedule. We're going to have like 8 days, I think, if both teams sweep before basketball is played again. It's the dumbest rule in sports. Like, let's move this up here, folks. We don't need to be so stringent with this. People aren't booking their tickets yet because they don't know whose team is in it yet. Like, what are we doing here? It's the dumbest thing. And then let's talk Boston Celtics. My Boston Celtics are being dragged through the ringer right now on social media for no reason. This is the best basketball team in the East. The regular season means something here, folks. They won 64 games. 64-18 was their record in the regular season. 14 games ahead of the rest of the East. 7 games ahead of the NBA. They had a 41-11 record against the East, a 23-7 record against the West. Top 5 defense in the NBA. And oh, yeah, by the way, the highest rated offense of all time. What more do you want from this team? It doesn't matter if they were facing healthy teams in the Eastern Conference final. They were going to mollywop them. And by the way, nobody wants to kind of really talk about it, but KP's been out, folks. The leading starter. We've been relying on Horford, who's been great, and I love Horford. But the minutes he has to play, the role he has to play because KP's been out, a key part of this Celtics team, nobody wants to talk about that injury. This isn't the first team that's had an easy path to a finals, quote unquote, easy path. And they have definitely had some injury luck go their way, for sure. But there are tons of teams littered throughout NBA history that have had easier paths or about as easy. And that's what comes with having a dominant regular season. A regular season where, oh, by the way, you were so good that you set yourself up to play potentially the easiest path. It matters, folks. I don't know what else to tell you. And the Tatum slander is absolutely outrageous. Jason Tatum is 9th in active scorers, only behind LeBron, KD, Steph, James Harden, Klay Thompson, CP, Kawhi, Russell. The dude is 26th. He had his 5th career NBA playoff game with 35 points or 10 rebounds. That's second in C's history, only behind Bird, who had 10. In players in NBA history, through their first 107 games that have scored, there's only 3 held up 3 players that have over 2,500 points, 800 rebounds, 500 assists. Jason Tatum, Larry Bird, LeBron James. What more do you want from this guy? Like, he's an absolute basketball machine. All this dude does is hoop, drop a 30-piece chicken nugget on your favorite team, and then go chill with his kid. Like, how does anybody hate this man? This dude is absolutely fantastic. Sure, people will point to the Kobe stuff, and what? Dudes can't have idols anymore? They can't have mentors anymore? We can't, have sports heroes that we, memorialize anymore? What? We can't do that as dudes anymore? Not allowed? Like, get out of here. It would be nice if he didn't have like this weird, I don't know, fetish for trying to pull off Kobe moments in games. Cause when he wants to get to the rack, there's no stopping him. He, right now, at his age, is the best player when it comes to just getting to the rim. You can't stop him when he decides to put his head down and get there. It just doesn't work. His bag of tricks is too good. His size, his speed, his agility, his athleticism, his skill with the ball. It's too good. I don't know what else you want from this man. It's ridiculous. The dude's an absolute superstar. He's one of the best players in the league right now. I hope they get the Mavs. We can get the Luka Tatum, Kyrie returning to Boston, KP returning to Dallas. People forget that narrative and that duo they thought they were going to have there with Luka and KP. It's going to be awesome. Like, that's what I hope for. And the Timberwolves are having a little that the TNT's been doing them so dirty. Having Draymond Green, first of all, execs, why are we ruining a good thing? Like, this is such an executive move of like, oh, we got to justify our high bonuses by putting Draymond on the stream. He makes everything worse right now. Like, that was a perfect show. We don't need him in the mix, but man, is it arguably hilarious just how much he hates Rudy and how much they keep putting him on there. The bad kitty graphic for Cat was, they did him so dirty on that. It's absolutely ridiculous. And sort of disappeared a little bit here. I mean, this is Minnesota. It's a young team, you know. Rudy's been put on skates for sure. The defensive player awards are a bit ridiculous at this point. Cat with his just 1,500 shots. That's what he's saying he's putting up in the gym. Kenny the Jet, I'm so glad they called him out for this. Kenny, who was a shooter, obviously, was like, it would take me 30, 40 minutes just to put up 300. You're putting up 1,500 on top of just your normal workouts and practice. Like, yeah, right, dude. So just an all-time funny moment there. Oh, good God. Let's talk Virginia Tech football. Virginia Tech in my top 25 at the 25 seed. They're building back that pipeline. They're building back what Virginia Tech football used to be. Could not be more excited for this. Brett Pry enters in here. FanDuel has their win total at 7.5, DK at 8. This is why it's important to line shop. Last year, 7 and 6. Insane returning production. If you don't know the name now, you need to get familiar with it. Kyron Drones is one of the best college football players out there, young college football players. Last year, second in passing efficiency. He took over that Purdue game. Virginia Tech was sort of wavering here. They didn't really have an offensive identity. He gets the reins during the Purdue game. They don't win that game, but it is clear that the lights come on the building, that this team is now starting to build back that pipeline. They've got a bona fide starter here in Drones. And man, were they able to keep him this season? That was the biggest talent acquisition, I think, across the board for this team. They have a ton of returning starters. I think they're most in the country right now in returning production. This team is ready to ball out. They have an offensive line that's going to be the key to all of this. You know, the left side of that offensive line was young last year. I mean, you're starting 2 redshirt freshmen, not a lot of experience. They've got experience across the board, a little depth. The skill positions are really where they're going to be highlighted. This is the anchor of that team. The wide receiver room is one of the deepest in college football. You get Lane, which is going to probably be the biggest, second biggest name on this team. Returning production value, 41 receptions last year, 13.1 yards per reception, 6 touchdowns. You get the full complement of wide receivers back, including Ali Jennings, who was kind of their big get last season. Broke his foot, I think it was. Either way, season-ending injury in week 2 of last year. Did not play the rest of the season. He looked good in the spring game. Had kind of some pop to him. You get Felton. Like, the wide receiver room is so solid for Drones to be able to utilize this season. And Drones is a big kind of quarterback. He'll get downhill on you quickly. Like, he's got a full complement of tools here to work with. The running back room, I mean, you got a 2-headed monster in Tutin, I think is how you pronounce his last name, and Thomas, both looking good. I wanted, though, and this guy's not going to be their bell cow back, but PJ Pelura, small, shifty back, jumps off the screen in that spring game with the moves he's able to make in open space. That gives you a nice off-speed pitch, a little depth on the offensive side. Now, defense is where there needed to be some improvement here. Brett Pry is a defensive guy, though. You expected that. They go out and they get much needed help at the defensive tackle spot. Plebes comes in, you're going to mix. Got great production out of Duke last year. He's going to help shore up the interior part of that defensive line. You got good depth at the edge position. Obviously, Powell Ryland can kind of hold down that edge. Super productive last year. Depth is going to be a problem, though, a little bit at the linebacker position, especially. You bring in Bloomfield. He's a Middle Tennessee transfer. Looked really good in the spring game. Now, you always have to take spring games with a grain of salt, but one of the things I really like about the way Pry does his is it's full contact, it's full go. Obviously, no quarterback contact there, but they really do try to set up. Now, they hold things back from a play standpoint, but they are really trying to kind of like bang the rust off the pads here type of thing. And Bloomfield looked really good. He looked natural there. So I think that could be a very good pickup at linebacker, but they are thin at linebacker, especially that Mike linebacker. So he's got to stay healthy for this team. Corner position is going to be a lockdown. Like, this defense is really good. I'll go more in depth with this team, but their win total value right now at 7.5, I think is absolutely fantastic. I've gone ahead, full disclosure, and bet over the 7.5 at FanDuel. This is why you want to line shop. You want to make sure that you can go ahead and get good pricing here. DK has it at 8. FanDuel has it at 7.5. If you can get better than that, fan-freaking-tastic. But I think when you look at the way their schedule lines up, and when you kind of look at the teams that they're going to be in competition with here, I think this is a really, really good football team. And they're an 8-win football team, I think. Like, there's a couple wins that maybe they can squeak out here, but when you look at the schedule, you look at the talent they're bringing in, you look at that bump that they should get because their skill positions are so good. Chiron is so damn good at quarterback. Like, this is a team that is ready to make a jump. This is a team that I don't think is going to necessarily win the ACC, but is going to be right there at competition level with everybody else in the conference. You know, maybe you get a Mario Cristobal brain fart in a gaming that gives you an opportunity to turn that game, because they're going to have to win one of these probably big games, but it's a very favorable schedule, I think, for their win total. I really like what they're doing down. The pipeline's being built back. Like, Virginia Tech is on the ascension right now. Like, I think if you're a Virginia Tech football fan, you ought to be extremely excited about what this team is going to bring to the table in the coming years, especially this season. Going to need a little injury luck here, but I like it at the over of 7.5. For Virginia Tech. We'll do a little bit of a more in-depth breakdown when I do the ACC preview and how I see them fitting in. But they're my 25th ranked team in my preseason rankings, so take that into consideration. And then to wrap up the show, we got two things. And this question touches on Deion Sanders' prediction of going to a playoff. So the question that I saw posed was, do you believe Deion Sanders and this Colorado team are a playoff contender? Absolutely not. The goal for Deion is to bowl. That's the goal this season. This is a team that has sort of a false sense of confidence because they have a very insanely good wide receiver room. Lots of depth there, lots of skilled players that can make plays. You got an NFL prospect in Shedeur Sanders at quarterback. But that's about it for this team. Like, yes, they go out and they address the offensive line. They bring in some veteran talent. I clock this team after that spring game as a 5-6 win football team. Vegas then opens the line at 5.5, kind of confirming my suspicions here. I think the additions they made in the trenches, both on offense and defense, give them about a 1-2 game win advantage from last year's team. But they lost depth at running back. They do not have a great linebacking core. I still think there are questions on that defensive end, their defensive side of the football, as to whether or not they can really kind of hold down the trenches. The back end of that secondary is in trouble. Shiloh is injured, had surgery this offseason, it looks like, is probably going to miss the start of the season, is sort of the indications, reading the tea leaves here a little bit. That's going to be very big for them because while he is not great in coverage, he very much helps defending the run game, and you've got two big-time physical teams coming in that are going to look to pound the rock against you early in the season. So, and you have to get off to a fast start. Travis Hunter's obviously fantastic. Look, at the end of the day, the goal is to bowl. The Big 12 is going to be a conference where the margins for error are thin, because a lot of these teams are very similar across the board. They're very similar in talent and coaching, all that stuff. So what does that mean? That means there is a chance that Colorado could beat the expectation of a 5-6 win game, but it's going to require Deion to do something he has yet to show, and it's an ability to manage the game within the game, to be an in-game coach that makes decisions that helps win the football games, to be a coach that has been organized and disciplined in the offseason, has developed a program to really help develop his team, the depth of his team as well, because right now on paper, the depth isn't there. But maybe the offseason workouts and the preparation they're going to be doing in the summer here is going to prepare these guys to win close football games. Maybe. We just haven't seen that type of team yet generated from Deion. It's always been, we're either going to beat you because we have a ton of talent edge, or we're going to lose this football game because we make dumb, sloppy mistakes and we can't get our assignments right. Like, that's been the story throughout it. Now, it's a short sample size. You know, he's only been coaching for 3 years now, but still, at some point, you got to show up here or there. So that's kind of where I feel they're at right now. I don't think they're a playoff team. I don't think that's crazy to say. I think a realistic expectation is a bowl. I think he even sort of said it. If you're watching the spring game, I've watched it a couple times, but he kind of says, you know, the goal is to go bowling. What he gives to the national media is sort of a facade. It's sort of kind of puffing out the chest to present yourself larger than life, which is what it is. You know, you can read that multiple ways, but I think realistically, they understand that this is a bowl team. This isn't a playoff team. This is a bowl team. They're going to have an opportunity to be in some games. We'll see what the preparation looks like. We'll see what this coaching staff looks like. They're going to need some injury luck. They're going to need some things to bounce their way, and they're going to need to be a heck of a lot better at managing the game within the games. But I give this team a 5 to 6 win kind of range right now. I'll do a little bit more prep. We're going to talk about it more in depth on the Big 12 breakdown show. But I just kind of wanted to answer that question. Come on here and do that. So, and then to wrap this up, my man, Charles Leclerc, he finally did it in Monaco. Absolutely brilliant qualifying session that allowed him to set up, because Monaco is a hard race. If you're not an F1 fan, Monaco it gets all the glitz and the glamour, but it's a really hard race to kind of pass people in. It's really, this race came down to tire management, hoping nothing breaks or bad luck that Charles has had. But he finally does it. I have the little tribute video that we threw out there. We'll put it at the back end for the YouTube video here. Just an awesome win. Absolutely fantastic. I love it for the man. And that will do it for us. We're going to be back. I'll be back here and there with some kind of topical stuff, but I can't stress this enough. The preview shows, a lot of work's been put into them. I'm so excited to bring them to you. They're going to be rolling out here relatively soon. We're going in depth on teams, win totals, forecasting their future, all of that good stuff. If you're not following the TikTok account, The Trophy Kids, for me specifically, Trophy Kids podcast for the pod stuff. A lot of good content coming out there, little snippets of stuff that you don't get here on the pod. So I hope you're following us on social media. I hope you're enjoying this stuff. And as always, peace.
2017, Charles Leclerc lost his father, and in his final days, he told his father a white lie, that he'd made it to Formula One, that he'd signed the contract. It wasn't true then, but his driving has made it true now. And look what he's done with the opportunity. The grandstands he saw built as a kid growing up now rise for him. And for the first time in 93 years, this fabled race is won by one of their own.